When Brian Carter walked into that upscale Nashville cafe on a Sunday afternoon, he didn't expect to have a life-changing moment, especially not from a woman he had never met before. Brian was 38, divorced for 2 years, and trying to get back into the dating game after a long hiatus. His friends kept telling him, "You just don't know the signs, man. Women today are subtle. They won't come out and say they like you. You gotta watch the body language." He always dismissed that as nonsense until he met Alyssa. Brian had come to the cafe to meet his friend Kevin, but Kevin texted last minute, running late. So Brian found a quiet table in the corner and ordered a black coffee. He sat with his phone, scrolling through emails, when he felt someone's presence near him. Looking up, he saw a brunette in her late 20s standing near his table, waiting for the server. She was stunning, with almond eyes, an easy smile, and confidence that lit up the room. She wore a soft lavender blouse and dark jeans, and though she wasn't trying to stand out, Brian noticed every detail. He nodded politely and went back to his phone until she spoke. "This table's got the best lighting," she said with a chuckle. "Mind if I sit across from you until they call my name? All the other seats are taken." Brian gestured toward the empty chair. "Be my guest." That's how it began. Her name was Alyssa Harding. She was 29, a social media consultant from Atlanta visiting Nashville for a few business meetings. What started as small talk grew into laughter, shared stories, and an undeniable connection. But Brian, cautious and self-conscious, kept wondering, is she just being polite, or is she into me? Then came the sign. As they were talking about old TV shows they grew up watching, Brian noticed something strange. Alyssa kept lightly touching her collarbone. Not constantly, but in a very natural, subconscious way. She'd lean forward, laugh, and as she smiled, her fingers would gently sweep across her upper chest, almost as if brushing something away. There was nothing there. No strand of hair. No necklace. No itch. It happened 3 times in 5 minutes. Brian didn't say anything about it, but he remembered what his buddy Ron once told him. Watch where she touches. If she touches her lips, her neck, or especially her collarbone, it's usually because she's feeling attraction. It's a comfort thing. A self-soothing gesture. That's spot-sensitive, and when she's focused on you, it's like her body reacts without her realizing it. Suddenly, Brian was alert. He leaned in a little more, lowered his voice slightly, and paid attention. As soon as he asked her what kind of clients she worked with, her eyes lit up, and there it was again. Her fingers touched the same spot, her collarbone. Brian smiled. This wasn't in his head. Over the next hour, their conversation turned more personal. Alyssa admitted she had just come out of a long relationship and wasn't looking for anything serious, but also said it felt good talking to someone who wasn't trying too hard. Brian told her about his divorce, his kids, and the slow road back to dating. He watched how often she touched her collarbone, sometimes resting her fingers there when he spoke. At one point, she laughed at a joke he made and lightly ran her hand down the side of her neck. Brian noticed, and her pupils were wide. She was leaning in, legs angled toward him. He finally asked, "Would you want to get dinner tonight?" Alyssa hesitated just a second, not in a rejecting way, but in a playful, shy smile kind of way. "That depends," she said. "Do you always make strangers laugh this much at cafes?" "Only the ones who touch their collarbone every 5 minutes," Brian replied with a grin. Her face turned a little red, and she laughed hard. "You noticed that? Hard not to." "That's embarrassing." "Not at all. It's actually kind of flattering." Alyssa looked down, smiled, and whispered, "Well, I guess I'm saying yes." That dinner turned into drinks. Then a walk by the river. Then a night that ended with a kiss Brian could only describe later as movie scene perfect. From that day, Brian began to study body language with curiosity. Not obsessively, but with awareness. He realized how many moments he'd missed in the past simply because he wasn't tuned in. And Alyssa was just the beginning. They stayed in touch after she returned to Atlanta. A few weeks later, Brian flew in to visit. Their chemistry grew stronger, and eventually, they began a long-distance relationship that would lead to something neither of them expected. The story, though, wasn't just about love. It was about awareness. Too many men, Brian realized, focus on what they're saying or how they look and forget to pay attention to what the woman is doing naturally. It's not always about bold moves or dramatic flirting. Sometimes, the subtlest signs mean the most. When a woman repeatedly touches a sensitive area like her collarbone, neck, or lips while talking to you, especially if she's relaxed, smiling, and maintaining eye contact, she's subconsciously engaging in self-soothing behavior. These gestures are often tied to nerves and excitement, and they point to comfort and attraction. Brian began to share his story with friends. He even started a small blog about body language and dating, posting tips like, if she plays with her necklace while smiling at you, she's into it. If she mirrors your movements or expressions, she's subconsciously syncing with you. If she touches her neck or collarbone often during conversation, you've likely got her attention on more than one level. Over time, he grew confident not because he memorized pickup lines, but because he learned to listen, not just with his ears, but with his eyes. A year after that cafe meeting, Brian proposed to Alyssa during a weekend trip to Charleston. She said yes, in the middle of a historic garden, with tears in her eyes and her fingers, true to form, resting softly on her collarbone. Looking back, Brian often laughed when telling people how it all began. I knew she liked me, he'd say, because she touched her collarbone when she laughed. That little gesture changed everything. And that's the truth most men miss. Attraction isn't always loud. It's not always verbal. Sometimes, it's hidden in the quietest places, the places she doesn't even realize she's drawing attention to. So, if you're ever talking to a woman and she keeps gently touching that space just below her neck, don't overthink it. Don't jump to conclusions. But do pay attention. Because that might just be the moment she's saying yes to you, without a single word.